Hi, I'm Kathy at Delafield Quilt Company, and today I'm going to show you my latest little camper project. And that's these little pot holders. These don't take much to come together, just a little bit of fabric, and they're so easy that you probably can sew them in your camper like I did. Hope you enjoyed the tutorial. Okay, to make this pot holder, we're going to need a few tools. We'll need a ruler, rotary cutter. If you have a pinking shears, that would be great. Otherwise, a regular scissors would be fine as well. Some clips, some binding clips would be helpful. And a fabric marking pen. You're also going to need a bowl, or a strainer in this case. And this should be the size that you want your pot holder to be close to. Your pot holder will actually end up being about a ½ inch smaller than whatever bowl rim you pick. So just pick whatever size will work best for your project. You also need some fabric. For the outer pockets, you need one for the outside and one for the inside, and you're just going to take whatever fabric you choose and just make sure that it fits well around the bowl that you've chosen to use. So you need the outside and inside of the pockets. For the bottom of the pot holder, this is ironing board fabric or heat resistant fabric. There's also a piece of fabric on the inside that you're going to need as well. Again, just cut a square that is probably about a ½ inch or inch beyond the bowl that you choose to use. So here's those two pieces. Then you're also going to need 2 pieces of batting. So I have those already pre-cut as well. Okay, then you also need some pieces of fabric that's going to be the binding and the little loop. So I have 2 pieces for the binding, and those are about 2 inches and whatever width beyond a little bit of what your bowl size is going to be, the fat part of the bowl. And then for your hoop, it's about 2 inches by 5 inches. Okay, to start your pot holder, you're just going to make a couple quilt sandwiches. You're going to do that by laying your ironing board fabric or heat resistant fabric the shiny side down. Lay a piece of batting on top of that. And then a piece of fabric on top of that. And you're going to do the same with the pockets. And the inside pocket fabric is going to be, if it's patterned, it's going to be right side down. And you're going to put your piece of quilt batting and then the top of your pot holder. So just make sure your edges are lined up. And then the next step is just to quilt each of these quilt sandwiches that you made. And you can quilt it in really whatever way that you want. I've already gone ahead and quilted some. So this is going to be the bottom. I just chose to go about 1.5 inch grid type quilting method. And I went a little bit more of a narrower grid type for the top, for the pockets. So for this part, you're going to need your marking pen and your bowl. And you're going to want to center your bowl on your quilted squares. You're going to just draw around that. And you're going to repeat that for the other side. Okay, now that you've got your circles drawn, you're going to take your scissors or your pinking shears. The reason I like to use the pinking shears is because when we sew this and turn it inside out, it's going to just, I think, make those curves a little bit easier. But if you don't have this, the scissors is absolutely fine as well. So I am just going to take this and just cut outside the line. And then I'm going to repeat that for the pocket piece as well. Okay, and then for your top, you're going to cut this in half. So just make sure you know where that center point is. Just going to fold this over, do a crease here. Once you have your centered figured out, you're just going to slice it right down the middle. Now you have your 2 pockets. Okay, the next step we need to do is make the binding that's going to go on either side of the pocket. And to do that, you will need an iron. Okay, to make the binding, I'm just going to fold it in half. Give that a press. And I'm going to fold it into the center Repeat that on the other side. And then once you have that, fold it towards the center. You're going to fold it one more time in half. And you're going to also do the same for your other piece, which I've already pretty much done. Then just repeat that for the hoop piece as well. Okay, so those are done. You're going to bring your pockets back. So on the flat side, you're just going to open up one of these pieces of the binding that you made and fold that over the edge. Just make sure it's on both sides, as even as you can make it. And then put a couple clips in there to hold it in place. And we're going to repeat that for the other side. And then I'm going to go ahead and sew a top stitch right along this edge here. Just make sure that you're in enough that you're going to catch the back too. And then for the hoop of your pot holder, you're just going to sew along the open edge just to seal it up. Okay, now to assemble your pot holder, we're going to do this with a French seam. So we're going to sew the border, and then we're going to also then turn it inside out and sew it again so that when you turn it right side out, you've got a nice finished edge. And I am trimming the excess binding off of the pockets. And then I'm going to line the circles up. And your edges of the circle should align. I'm just going to overlap the center just a little bit. If you found that it was a little bit off, maybe when you cut it or measured it, just trim it up a little bit so they match as close as you can get them. So then to make the hoop, I'm just going to take the little hoop fabric, I'm going to fold it in half and then offset it just a little bit. And then I'm going to put the unfinished edge at the top here, aligning it with the binding from the pockets. And I'm just going to clip that into place. I'm also going to put a few clips around the pot holder. Okay, now I'm going to sew just slightly less than a 1/4 inch around the entire pot holder. And I'm doing just slightly less because when we flip it inside out to the French seam, we don't want that first seam showing. Okay, once your pot holder is sewn, if you didn't have a pinking shears, you might want to just take your scissors and just make a few clips up to the seam allowance, and that will help it turn it inside out and be round a little bit easier. Okay, so we're going to turn it inside out. So the wrong side out actually is going to be on the outside. Just make sure you're using your fingers to really get that seam pushed out all the way. All right, now that I've got it all folded out, I'm going to go back around and sew another seam, and this is going to be a generous 1/4 inch. So I'm actually going to move my guide out a little bit further than a 1/4 inch just to make sure I've caught that inside seam. And your loop is just going to be folded inside the pot holder. Okay, once you have that sewn, go ahead and turn it right side out this time. Get those edges out as much as you can. If you need to use a blunt object to help, that would be great as well. Okay, and now you have your finished pocketed circle pot holder. I hope that you enjoyed this tutorial. Please consider subscribing if you haven't done so, and visit us at www.delafieldquiltco.com. Thanks and have a great day.